Okay guys, what's going on? It's your host Chris here again with another Fantastic Reviews. I hope you all enjoyed the earlier video I posted this week. This one is going to be as crazy. However, I am making a major change to this channel. I've noticed that I haven't been talking about horror movies as much lately. The horror genre is one I dearly love. I definitely have invested a lot in it, in my collection and in my viewing. So I thought for this channel, what we should do from now on is once a week or once every 2 weeks. However, I'll figure it out. But I want to fit in at least like a horror drive-in session where I pick up an obscure horror movie that in my collection that I haven't seen or I have seen, and I'll double feature it, or I'll talk about one specifically and recommend it or highlight it in some way. I think this way we can get more talks in the comment section about horror movies. We definitely don't talk about them as much. I want to thank also Daniel for the suggestion on this. We had a missed opportunity once earlier in Nathan's channel that I want to see maybe be done on this channel. We won't be doing slow burn horrors though. So I'll start with the first movie. The first movie is a 1979 horror movie put out by Shout Factory or Scream Factory called The Sentinel. Now The Sentinel stars Christina Rains and Chris Sarandon. It also stars Burgess Meredith. It has featuring Ava Gardner, Tom Berenger, Christopher Walken, and even Jeff Goldblum in this movie. So if this isn't enough to hook you up, I definitely think you should be looking at other movies then. But this should be more than enough star power to get you into it. But the real characters is Christina Rains and Chris Sarandon. They both play a couple. Christina Rains plays Allison Parker, who is a model in New York City. And she wants to move into this new apartment. So she does, and little does she know that this apartment is actually a gateway to hell. Poor Chris Sarandon plays the boyfriend who's trying to help his fiancée out. He ends up having to help her in trying to seal this gate. This movie apparently is based off of a novel, which I find very interesting. I wonder how that novel would have went. Michael Winner is the director of this. So this 1979 horror movie is definitely, I think, kind of off people's radar, and I think you should really check it out if you have time for kind of like a chilling, atmospheric horror movie. I really think this movie could make a little bit of a splash in your horror viewing if you haven't seen it already before. I think Christina Rains does an awesome job as being Allison Parker, because she's having like these hallucinations while living in this apartment about what's reality and what's just her own psyche that's freaking her out. She has like moments in the movie where she thinks like she's in a room with these characters, but then she leaves the room and then somebody tells her there's no one there, or that those people died years and years and years ago. So she's trying to figure out what are these people and who are they, or what do they want with her. Burgess Meredith plays her neighbor with a cat, and you have to find out whether or not he's alive or not, which is pretty interesting. Burgess Meredith was also Mickey in the movie Rocky, as Rocky's trainer, if you didn't recognize him. But yeah, The Sentinel, I think, is an awesome atmospheric movie. I think it's really chilling, and it has a lot of kind of creepy atmospheric moments where there's a lot of pieces where it's like really dark and like dimly lit rooms, and Allison Parker will turn around and she will like see like a horrific image. And I think that's really awesome. I think for a movie that came out at this time, job well done. I think when we think of watching horror movies, we're like jump scares and stuff like that. And this movie definitely does. But I think the atmosphere and just the situation at hand is enough to terrify audiences. I mean, come on. She's living in an apartment where it's like a portal to the gateways to hell. So there's going to be a lot of scary images in this movie. I definitely recommend The Sentinel. I think for a chilling atmospheric movie with incredible makeup design, I think this movie does a really great job of bringing terror. To speak on the makeup effects, it turns out that the guy who did that was named as Dick Smith. He also did the makeup for The Exorcist. So if you love that movie, I definitely would go to The Sentinel, and I think everyone loves that movie for the most part. And the makeup in that was terrific, and it shows here in The Sentinel as well. It's definitely like an old school horror movie in terms of like, you know, demons and the battle for Earth and your soul. I think it does an awesome job with that. So I definitely recommend The Sentinel if you haven't seen it before. The next movie I want to pair it with is another compatriot of the 1970s, the best decade ever. Is the 1979 horror movie, which came out the same time as Alien, is Abel Ferreira's Driller Killer. So in 1979, Abel Ferreira came upon this idea for this movie called The Driller Killer. So he directs and stars in this movie. He plays the artist named Reno. So Reno lives as well, just like in the Sentinel, in New York City in an apartment. The only difference is instead of being a model, he's an artist. And he's a deranged artist. Reno's problem is that he is short on money for this next month's rent. And he's working on a big artwork piece that he's going to try and sell to this gallery man. So a lot of pressures on him. He lives in an apartment with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's daughter. So he has a lot of people to take care of besides just himself. This movie definitely draws upon inspiration of The Taxi Driver by Martin Scorsese. It's not much like it, but the only thing I think it borrows a lot of is showing the underbelly and grossness and poverty of New York during the 70s. I think that's a big proponent of this movie because Reno is terrified of living on the streets, and because his father did before him and died on the streets, and I think his grandfather did as well, and he doesn't want to fall into that circle. Kind of rough being an artist and in the 70s, and then that's like your biggest worry. Reno definitely has a fear of homelessness, and it shows throughout the movie. When he's outside, he's drawing homeless people, but the direction of it is really highlighting the everyday lives of homeless people. It sees them like sleeping, it shows them drinking, it shows them fighting and doing other vices. It's kind of sad and it's kind of terrifying at points too that actually did happen a lot of times, and that was the fact of life for many people. But Abel Ferreira does it very delicately, and he's doing it with a purpose when highlighting these moments. Another great part about this movie is it borrows a lot from the 1970s like punk rock movement. A lot of that has to do with the frustrations of Reno's the character Reno, because his neighbors underneath him are a punk rock band, and their noise is so loud, and it's affecting his artwork, and it's affecting his like concentration that he's starting to go a little insane because of that. But so he not only has to do with that homelessness, but he has to do with his neighbors underneath. So you kind of feel for Reno, and Reno starts to have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde problem because he's having these hallucinations and these daydreams and dreams of him going out at night and using a drill to kill homeless people and stalk people at night. It's kind of terrifying when those sequences start because they look so real. Like, I don't know how the director did that because the gore is not gore, but the blood and the violence is so sadistic and realistic. It's a little unnerving at times, but it also is pretty impressive for the movie of this time. It really keeps the audience engaged, I think, in doing so. The other thing about The Driller Killer is that the beginning of the movie will start saying to play the movie loud, and because of the drill noises, the loud bands and stuff like that. But a little bit more about Reno's character is he's this really cool New York guy with kind of like curls, and he kind of talks like this. He's like, "What, man? You crazy, man? No, man, that's not what I'm talking about, man." And that's how he talks. Like, and it's really entertaining, and it's fun to see, actually. And then you kind of think at a time, man, you really feel for this guy. But at the same time, he's also the antagonist. He's the killer. No spoilers there because you find it out very quickly. But it is pretty graphic. I would recommend it for people who are 18 only. But it is a very good movie. I own it here on a Steelbook by Arrow. Arrow did an amazing job with this Steelbook. I only picked this up for like $8 back home. The girl there held it for me. I didn't realize that this movie was going to be worth that much because I've seen some of the prices on it. I'm like, well, I'm glad I got it for that price. But The Driller Killer, it's a little slow at points, however. It's not just wham, bam, rock and roll everywhere. Eventually it gets to that, but it is a very entertaining movie. I definitely recommend this movie for you and your friends if they're like B-movie horror fans. This is definitely the movie where they want background noise and they want to look at the screen and see somebody getting drilled from behind. This is the movie for it. The Sentinel is going to be a little bit slower and you might want to watch it by yourself and kind of getting that chilly covers over your head kind of feeling. The Driller Killer is awesome. I definitely was blown away and surprised by this. So I'm really happy to see it, to have seen it, and be able to talk about it. It does have like a full screen option, and it just has like a widescreen option as well, which is a little different. But yeah, you know how it is here at the channel. I try to talk about some of the highlights of this movie and some of the kind of like the pros and cons of it. But I still recommend both of these movies nonetheless. I think that they don't maybe complement each other as well as this one. They're completely different type of subgenre horror. But I think if you're trying to just get into the horror genre, or if you're a veteran, these are good movies maybe to get into. Now, The Driller Killer is a video nasties, which is a coined term from horror movies from the 70s and 80s that were a little more graphic and banned in the UK, and then the Arrow studio would like put it out. So this is a video nasty, so I would be a little more cautious. This is more grindhouse horror, but it has a very solid story. And then The Sentinel is a little more traditional, spooky, chilling, a little graphic at times horror movie. I think this is for those who like a little more slow. But yeah, this is the first ever horror movie drive-in with the Hertastic reviews, and I think these two really can kick off this little mini series as well. So The Driller Killer, I won't show the other side because it's a little graphic, but the coined term for it was the blood runs in rivers and the drill keeps tearing through flesh and bone. Kind of weird and crazy. The Sentinel says there must forever be a guardian at the gate from hell. She was young, she was beautiful, she was the next. So, very cool artwork styles as well. You can get this on Arrow, and you can get the Sentinel on Screen Factory as well. That's been another Hertastic Reviews. If you're new to this channel, I wanted to thank you for tuning in with us. I hope you like, comment, subscribe. Maybe put something down in the comment section down below. I definitely recommend checking out some more videos that I have on the channel. For those who've tuned in before, thank you again for the support as always. A little change of pace. We never talk about horror here, so hopefully you kind of enjoyed that. Let me know down below in the comment sections maybe what your favorite horror movies are, or if you're into the B movie horror genre. Give me some of those recommendations. Unless they're like Cannibal Holocaust, I don't want that as a recommendation. I've already seen it. I don't want to see it, and I don't even want to talk about it now. But down below in the comment section, let's have a discussion. I want to hear some of your thoughts and opinions on those. Other than that, thank you all for watching the Hertastic Reviews. My name's Chris, and I'll see you next time.